What is your vote for the worst ballpark? Last week, we talked about the best. Now we're talking about the worst. Live on the Brew.
Joel, you've been to them all, so what's your vote for the worst MLB ballpark?
The worst ballpark. There's only a handful that are even in the same category. The worst ballpark is definitely Oakland Coliseum. The fans are boycotting the ownership right now. It's 2022. They're not even selling tickets. They're getting like anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 people every night. But even if they did have a nice ballpark, or even if they did go to the games, they would still be in a ballpark that keeps on breaking down, has terrible seats, so far away from the game. Even though it's cheap, it's one of the cheaper ballparks, and people still don't go to the games there. So that should tell you a lot.
Even like your Las Vegas Aviators, a minor league team, has more fans at a single game than the A's do.
At this point in time, that's true. Yeah, the minor league team is outselling the A's.
Very interesting. So I've never been there yet, but I've seen pictures on TV. So and I've heard your story, so I know like, oh yeah, okay, not the best experience there. But I gave my answer away last week. I'm going to follow up on it and go a little longer. So my worst ballpark vote is Fenway. Now, disclaimer, I'm not saying that just as a Yankee fan. I like the history of it. I like the fact that it's still in existence. I like the fact you can still sit in those old seats. You can walk into Green Monster. But for me, the amenities and the service are lacking. Like, I had to wait in a line for a hot dog, which I thought, as I said last week, the Fenway Franks were terrible. And then you got to stand in another line to get beer. So while you're in these like two separate lines, you miss like 2 innings of the game. You know, it takes a long time. So they got to work on that. You got to get everything together. And then also, like, there's one bar in the park, but there's not a lot going on around it. There's a CVS, lest you walk, which now with ballparks, you got to have like amenities. You have to have other things to do while you're in the park. And that's one thing where at least I think Fenway might be missing it just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Joe and I went to Fenway. We were both there at the same time. And that's, you know, if you're going for like the old ballparks that kind of are like outdated and the seats are small and plastic and uncomfortable, like that one fits in there. That's a good candidate. If you're going for nostalgia, obviously no one's going to agree with you. But Fenway, like I kind of understand what you're saying too, because walking around Fenway, everything has like random corridors going in all kinds of different directions, and there's like construction beams everywhere, and you feel like you're like in the middle of a project that never got finished.
Yeah, I mean, it's an old park, and they have retrofitted things in and try to add some amenities, but it just feels haphazard like that. It's just really, I don't know, it's cool to be able to say, hey, I walked in a place, you know, the people have been for 100 years enjoying a game, but it's just not there. And then, like, the only thing across the street, like, you and I went, it was a CVS, and we got booed for it in our Yankees gear in there.
Yeah.
All right, well, you guys have a lot of different answers for what you think your vote for the worst ballpark, and they are all over the place, so let's find out. Vamos Yankees, he agrees with me. He says Fenway. Bronx Bombers 46 says Trop. And Rock Guitar says Tropicana Field, an MLB joke. The Mets should play there. One thing I love about Tropicana Field, if you look very closely in the upper level, how they have like seats covered over with a tarp because nobody goes.
Yeah, they actually do that on purpose. They don't want people up in the upper. It's for an intimate feel or whatever, to be on the bottom row only. But really, nobody does that unless they can't sell tickets. They're just doing it to try and make it seem like, oh, you know, our capacity is a little higher than it actually is. But one thing about Tropicana Field, I was actually expecting someone to bring this up, but the cool thing about Tropicana Field is on game day, they actually do have a lot of amenities where it's like the opposite of like Colorado or Toronto, where it looks really nice on TV, but there's nothing to do inside the park. The Trop is kind of the opposite. The Trop looks terrible on TV. The catwalks obviously interfere with baseball's in play, which is a really stupid rule. So they have to improve some stuff. But it is cool, and I give them credit for the amount of effort they put into the amenities around the park.
All right, more of your comments. Let's continue because Starman says the Oakland A Stadium rings something looks really bad on TV. I'm nowhere close, but there are local minor league parks that do better. And another example of bad corporate sponsorship. Ring what? Ringworm? I don't want that. And he also says at least MLB parks got away from the bowl design. Real Treats tweets, Oakland, Alameda County Coliseum, or whatever they're calling it this week. It's an old and dilapidated, it floods, there's mold. It's an embarrassment, and it's the reason the Raiders left and the A's probably aren't far behind. And Rudy, with the final answer, agrees, hands down, Oakland Coliseum. Whew, a lot of hatred for Oakland, so I think we have our official answer, but I didn't realize it flooded, does it?
It's just the easiest one to dunk on for so many reasons, and it doesn't surprise me that it's on this list.
Like, how's their food and bar situation inside the park?
Their food is just okay at best. It's just cheap. It's cheap. That we'll give them credit. They have kept the prices pretty low, but that's just because they have no demand. But No, it's just basic. It's not really anything that stands out. They don't put effort into anything there.
And there's not even a plan to like renovate that park, right? There's no chance they're going to even try to stay.
The whole thing is if they can get a deal within the city's budget, which they're not even close to being on the same side of, then they'll stay there. But a lot of the executives have been out in Vegas for years, so who knows? But I really don't think they're going to be able to get a deal done with the city. I think it's just a matter of time before they move to Vegas.
And as we've seen, Vegas is definitely hungry for a professional team. They could definitely use a pro team, even if it is the A's. I mean, look at the Aviators, the minor league team. I mean, it's a hit. So Vegas is like the one thing they need to plug in is a baseball team.
Here, if they move out here, that's for sure.
Yeah, they will do well. So, hey, hopefully it's a good thing. It'll be a win-win for everybody if that does indeed happen. You know what else is a win-win? When you click that like, subscribe button down below for all the fun here on the Jersey Joe 50 YouTube channel. 4 big shows waiting for you each and every week. Lots of fun here. And we enjoy seeing and chatting with you each week. And this is one of our first episodes of the Brew, Joel, where we actually have like almost a landslide answer. I mean, yeah, the A stadium is a ring whatever, as Starman said, is easy to dunk on, but it's definitely unanimous the vote.
I think they should pay attention to this. Anybody that's in control that can change the situation. If there's this many people agreeing on it, I mean, pay attention.
All right, well, hey, thanks for joining us for all your great answers. Trusty Joe, Eye on you, saying thanks for watching. Keep watching your baseball, and we'll see you next time, I hope.
Jersey Joe is giving away more Amazon gift cards with another round of What Is It Really and Spin to Win. Get in on the fun, streaming now.